Welcome back to the Jeff Darty Show, Christian Whistleblower, NCK YouTube channel. I'm Jeffrey Darty, your host. Interview with the Devil. The Christian Whistleblower looks at the Napoleon Hill classic. I don't know if it's quite a classic in the true sense. We're talking about, what's the name of the book? Outwitting the Devil. And we talked about it yesterday in part one. And we got right up to the place where the devil was sharing his greatest secret with Napoleon Hill, and the greatest secret was to be able to cause people to drift. And Hill pins the devil down and says, "What do you mean by drift?" And the devil says, "The best definition is by saying that people who think for themselves never drift, while those who do little or no thinking for themselves are, by definition, drifters. A drifter is one who permits himself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind. If I may editorialize, a drifter waits for his ship to come in, while a thinker swims out and meets her ship. A drifter is one who permits himself to be influenced, controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind. A drifter is one that says, 'She made me feel bad. He made me mad. They made me lose my temper.' When the person of truth and thinking realizes that no one makes them exhibit any emotion, that we all choose to exhibit our emotions based upon stimuli that we receive, and our reaction to it is the decision. The stimuli, which is more than one stimulus, has no power within itself to force us to do anything or nothing. So the drifter would rather let the devil or any one or thing else occupy his mind to do his thinking than go through the trouble of thinking for himself. A drifter accepts whatever life throws in his way. It's just the will of God. Thy will be done. Thy kingdom come. Oh, just whatever you want, rat bastard, I'll do it. No protest, no putting up a fight. Doesn't know what he wants from life. Spends all of his time getting that. Nothing. My grandfather used to tell me to wish in one hand and do something else in the other and see which one fills up first. A drifter's too lazy mentally to use his own brain. That's the reason why the devil can take control of people's thinking and plant ideas in their mind. Bill says, "Oh, I get it. I think I know what a drifter is. Tell me exactly the habits of people that you induce to use them to get them to drift through life. Start by telling me when and how you first gain control of a person's mind." And somebody wrote me a message or a comment. "There's no, how can a human control the devil? There's no way that Hill could have had the devil under control." Well, you don't know very much about spirituality, do you? The fact of the matter is that you've got the spark of divinity within you, and you can control anything and everything that you think you can control. But if you want the power, you got to pay your bill. So go ahead and describe. A human mind is obtained while the person's young. I lay the foundation for my control of a mind before it's even born. Before it's even born. There are things that can happen to you, things you can be subject to before you're even born that will shape you and will cause, I call them engrams, things that are difficult, that will be difficulties for you until you remove them. Sometimes I go further back and prepare people for control through physical heredity. I have two approaches to the mind of a person. Hill says, describe those two things. As I've stated, says the devil, I help bring young people into your world with weak brains by giving to them before birth as many as possible of the weaknesses of their ancestors. You call this process physical heredity. After people are born, I use what you call environment as a means of controlling them. This is where the principle of habit enters. The mind is nothing more than the sum total of one's habits. How many times have I said to you, the quality of the questions you ask yourself determine your life? So instead of asking, why am I so fat? You ask, what can I do to get to my ideal weight? And your mind goes to work answering any question that you ask it. That's what he's talking about here. Tell me the most common habits by which you control the minds of people. This is one of my most clever tricks, says the devil. I enter the minds of most people through thoughts which they believe to be their own. The devil enters your mind through thoughts that you believe to be your own, because truth be told, the devil can't enter your mind without your permission. The most useful ones are fear, superstition, avarice, greed, lust, revenge, anger, vanity, and just plain laziness. In other words, all the great attributes of Christianity. Through one or more of these, I can enter any mind, any age, but I get my best results when I take charge of a mind when it's young, before its owner has learned to close any of these 9 doors. The 9 doors of the soul. The 9 doors. 9 doors of the, we'll put mind. You'll probably be hearing more about that one again someday soon. Then I can set up habits which keep the doors ajar forever. Hill says, I'm catching on to your methods. Now take me back to drifting. Tell me about that habit, since you say it's your cleverest trick. As I said before, I start people drifting during their youth. When they're youths, I induce them to drift through school without knowing what occupation they wish to follow. This is where I catch the majority of people. Habits are related. Drift in one direction, soon you're drifting in all directions. I also use environmental habits to give me a definite grip on my victims. You seem to make it your business to train children, inducing them to go through school without aim or purpose. Tell me another one of your tricks. The second best trick is put into operation with the aid of parents and public school teachers and religious instructors. I warn you not to force me to mention this trick. Don't disclose this trick. If you do so, you'll be hated by my co-workers who help me use this trick. If you publish this confession in book form, the book will be barred from the public schools. It'll be blacklisted by the religious leaders. Newspapers won't dare to give reviews. Millions of people will hate you. In fact, no one will like you or your book, except those who think, and you know how very few there are of this sort. Yeah, about 4,500 by my reckoning. So many subscribers we have. It ain't easy being an unindoctrinator, and I salute all of you that are, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because you are the best of the best. You are the most thinkingest of the thinkers, and I appreciate you. And what is that? What is that? Do you see that mist? Huh. That was very odd. A little mist came over my screen there. But I did rub off the lens and it went away. So I guess we can't attribute that to any supernatural occurrence, can we? Although it's odd, it would just come and then it would leave. Ha ha ha! Maybe we got their attention. Good! I know how this feels. Bill says, you know what? Go ahead. I want to hear it. You'll regret this. The joke's on you. Never mind. Tell me. My second best trick is no trick at all. Not second at all. It's first. It's first because without it, I would never gain control of the minds of the youths. Parents, school teachers, religious instructors unknowingly serve my purpose by helping me destroy children, destroying them the habit of thinking for themselves. They go about their work in various ways, never suspecting what they're doing to the minds of children or the real cause. I take exception with that. I think some of them know exactly what they're doing, but a lot of them don't. I can hardly believe you. I've always believed that the child's best friends were those closest to them, parents, teachers, priests. This is, I guess, before we knew what they were doing. That's where the cleverness comes in, says the DEVIL. Here is the exact explanation how I control 98% of the people of the world. I take possession of them in their youth, before they come into possession of their minds fully, by using those who are in charge of them. I especially need the help of those who give the children religious instruction, because it's here I break down independent thought and start people in the habit of drifting, confusing their minds with unprovable ideas concerning a world of which they know nothing. It's also here that I plant in the minds of children the greatest of all fears, the fear of hell. Why am I the Christian whistleblower? Why do I do what I do? Because with the help of those who give children religious instruction, the enemy of humanity is breaking down independent thought and starting people on a habit of drifting, confusing their minds with unprovable ideas concerning a world of which they know nothing, and implanting in their hearts the greatest fear of all, hell. What the Christian whistleblower does is encourage and strengthen independent thought, dissuade people from the habit of drifting, give their mind crystal clarity, or at least access to information that will give their mind crystal clarity about a spiritual world that is eminently understandable once demystified, and show them that the great lie of original sin is just that, the great lie, and that there is no such thing as hell, and there's nothing to fear except the idea and fear. There's nothing to fear except church itself. That's why I do what I do. And right now we're the only one in the world doing what we do. The only one with the experience, the only one with the knowledge, and the only one with the lack of anything to worry about. Who should you be afraid of most? The guy who has nothing left to lose, and you're looking at him. Ready to go. Ready to play. Come on in. The water's fine. We're going to win. I know we are. I know it's easy to frighten children with threats of hell, but how do you continue to make them fear you and your hell after they grow up and learn to think for themselves? Children may grow up, but they don't necessarily learn to think for themselves, because a lot of you are, how do I say this without upsetting you? And not without making it seem like I'm taking a shot at you, but many of you are still mental babies. You're mental midgets. You've never learned to control yourself. You drive down the road, somebody cuts your phone. Yeah, shut up. You have no control over your emotions. How could you have any control over your thoughts? Grasshopper. You must learn to control your thoughts so you can control your emotions. I would recommend studying martial arts. Anything but Taekwondo. Taekwondo is a fine sport. It's not much of a martial art. Wing Chun. Jeet Kune Do. Aikido. Kickboxing, very good sport, very good self-protection, but not much of a martial art. It'll help you to quiet your mind, take control of your emotions. And once you can take control of your emotions, then it's much easier for you to take control of your thoughts. Yeah, I'm being totally serious. That wasn't a parody at all. Once I capture the mind of a child through fear, I weaken that child's ability to reason and think for themselves, and the weakness goes with the child through their life. I remember being a preacher and preaching the youth meetings, and we'd have the Left Behind movie. Back then it was called A Thief in the Night. And we'd stoke up the fear, man. Those kids would be crying and running the altar. I want to give my heart to Jesus. Ah. Whew, forgive me. Terrible. Isn't that unfair to take advantage of a human being by contaminating the mind before he comes into possession of it? Everything is fair that I can use to further my ends. All's fair in love and war, and this is both. I don't have any foolish limitations of right and wrong. Might is right. With the devil, I use every known human weakness to gain and keep control of the human mind. Any crack you give him, he's like a roach. He's going to wiggle into it. Hill gets a little upset. Good for him. I understand your devilish nature. Let's get back to your methods of causing people to drift. I can see that you take charge of children while they're pliable. I can see you use leaders. And the devil says, one of my very favorite tricks is to coordinate the efforts of parents and religious instructors so they work together in helping to destroy the child's power to think for themselves. I use religious instructors to undermine the courage and power of independent thought from children by teaching them to fear me, the devil. But I use the parents to aid the religious leaders in this great work of mine. So how do parents help religious leaders destroy their children's power to think for themselves? It's a very clever trick, says the devil. I cause the parents to teach their children to believe as the parents do in conjunction with religion, politics, marriage, and other important subjects. In this way, when I gain control of the mind of a person, I can easily perpetuate the control by causing that person to help me fasten it upon the minds of his offspring. I was a terrible parent in this regard, maybe in more than that regard. Dude, I was a kid with kids. What was I going to do? But I lowered the boom. My kids did what I did, said what I said, thought what I thought, or else. Not really, but we've got to get to the point where we're spiritual enough to allow our children to assert and develop their own spirituality. And I cause children to become drifters by following the example of their parents. Just watch what your parents do. It makes no difference how a child's will is subdued as long as it fears something. I'll enter its mind through fear and limit the child's ability to think independently. It seems you really go out of your way to keep people from thinking. You know why? Because it's like Twain said, and I always say it. I know you're rolling your eyes because I'm going to say it again, but it's so much easier to fool people than it is to convince them they've been fooled because they don't think. They stop thinking. And then here comes this Christian whistleblower that's trying to get people to think, and it's like, oh man, that's too much work. I'm just going to go watch some TV. Accurate thought is death to me, says the devil. I cannot exist in the minds of those who think accurately. You know why? Because an accurate thinking mind says, how in the world could a being that murders babies, how in the world could a being that says, rip the baby from the mother's womb, kill the women, kill the men, kill the boys, kill the girls, blot out even their animals? An accurate thinking mind says, how could that being be a god? The accurate thinking mind says, how can a being that says that he is revengeful, that he is fearful, that he is wrathful, that he is jealous, how could that being be God? What does God need with a starship? That's what accurate thinking says. I don't mind people thinking as long as they think in terms of fear, discouragement, hopelessness, and destructiveness. Oh, sounds like he's talking about the truth movement now. Oh, you got to be afraid of Planet X. You got to be discouraged because the government's coming for us. Be hopeless because there's no way we can win this thing. And you know what? Maybe we ought to just lock and load and go down fighting. When they begin to think in constructive terms of faith, courage, hope, definite of purpose, they indefinitely become allies of my opposition and therefore lost to me. Bam! That's why I do what I do, because that's me. That's what I'm doing. We're constructive in terms of faith. We give you courage because we're saying we can win this thing. We give you hope because we know we can stop the rat bastard's final false flag. Yes, we can. And we have definiteness of purpose because we know who we are, we know what we are, we know what we're trying to do. And we immediately become allies of the opposition of the enemy. We immediately become allies of the Christ, of the inexpressible ones, of the inexpressible one. And we're lost to the enemy. He has no hope of ever taking us down. So we're going to take him down. We're going to take him down, Chinatown. Interview with the Devil. The Christian Whistleblower looks at the Napoleon Hill classic. This is fun. And it's about to get even more fun because we are going to win. We are going to stop the Lord, Yaldabaoth, Marduk, Jehovah, Yahweh, rat bastards, final false flag. If you could have got the news out of what was going to happen at 9/11, you could have stopped it. We're going to get the news out of a false flag, even greater than that. And I need your help. I need you to share and like this on social media. I need you to be an unindoctrinator. Share on social media. And I need you to sponsor my work. Go to my website, which is linked below, jeffreydarty.com. One-click sponsorship through PayPal, which is preferred, or Patreon. Every dollar goes right back into the work. I'm Jeffrey Darty, the Christian Whistleblower, encouraging you to unwind your mind, indoctrinate yourself, and be excellent to each other.